back to London. Even at lunchtime, the metropolis is abuzz with movement and activity. In the Notting Hill neighbourhood, it's party time, with Europe's biggest street carnival. Instigated 50 years ago by the West Indians living in this part of London, the carnival now draws over 1 million people every year. Right at the heart of the carnival, Augustine Pepe Francis is a veritable institution.
Immigrants that came in the early days was living around the Ladbroke Grove area. So that is why they had quite a large Trinidad population in Ladbroke Grove. But now it's become a Caribbean kind of carnival. It takes in everybody now.
Just a bit further up the road, Tanya's taking part in the festival, as she does every year. It's a tradition she's inherited from her mother, and she wouldn't miss it for the world.
My mum, she's from Trinidad, so for her it's a cultural thing. It's the most important event in the year because the origins of why Carnival came to this part of London was because of the immigration wave during the 50s and the 60s when most people of West Indian descent, they ended up here, and so they brought that tradition over with them from the islands. Now, you know, you've got everyone comes here. You've got Brazilians, you have Spanish, you have samba, you have capoeira, you've got everything.
With the rise in property prices, the West Indian community has mostly been forced out of Notting Hill and the centre of the capital. London is made up of a mosaic of neighbourhoods in which the descendants of diverse peoples from the former British Empire coexist. One major wave of immigration was that from the Indian subcontinent in the 60s and 70s. Many of these immigrants settled in Southall, an area of West London 15 kilometres from the centre. In Southall, otherwise known as Little India, the shops and restaurants are almost all run by British descendants of Indian and Pakistani immigrants.
Anybody waiting on a queue, please?
Southall is home to a sizable and influential Sikh community. Southall's Gurdwara Sri Guru Singh Sabha is Europe's largest Sikh temple, built with money donated by its congregations. It's a place of worship, of coming together, and also of charity. Every day, the temple feeds the local poor. While Southall is predominantly home to people from the Indian subcontinent, there are people from other parts of the world too. New waves of immigrants regularly come to London and make it their home. The British capital is a constantly shifting mosaic. And this multiculturalism isn't just an urban phenomenon. It also extends into rural zones where, for the last 15 years or so, immigrants have made a place for themselves as agricultural workers. But unlike the melting pots of the cities, which for the most part consist of people from outside Europe, the English countryside mainly attracts East Europeans, especially Poles, who over the last 10 years have become the United Kingdom's largest immigrant community. And these 830,000 Poles have pointed the way to the English countryside to their East European neighbours. On Chegworth Farm in Kent, the apples are picked by hand. It's seasonal work, for which the immigrant workers, both flexible and cheap, are a godsend.
I'm from Lithuania. My friends is from Poland, from Romania, from Bulgaria. Before 4 months in June, I come just to his farm and I'm back. I'm very good. I like.
We have a lot of pickers who are Eastern European, and there's a mix of how they work with us. So we have a lot of people who work with us year-round on the farm and will move around with the seasons. So going forward, we hope that there's going to be a really good, clear strategy in place that means that we'll still have access to those people who want to come over here and work for us.
The use of European labour in this way is possible because of the extreme flexibility of the British labour market. But Brexit will almost certainly restrict free movement of workers to the United Kingdom. Of all the United Kingdom's agricultural areas, the largest and most fertile is East Anglia. It's here where some of the country's most intensive industrialised farming is done. The farms are vast, sometimes over 1,000 hectares. Vegetables, oilseed crops, wheat, barley, corn and potatoes are grown here on an industrial scale. The grain silos look like skyscrapers, and the livestock rearing methods are on the same sort of scale. For the country is far from being self-sufficient. It produces only 59% of the food it consumes and imports the rest, mainly from other nations in Western Europe. North of East Anglia, the terrain becomes hillier, the soil poorer and the climate more demanding. There are fewer crops here, fewer harvests. Now we're entering sheep country. In the northwest of England is the Lake District, the country's largest national park. In Ennerdale Valley, Will Rawling and his son are sheep farmers, just as their family has been for generations. In the early afternoon, it's time to herd the flock together.
So the way we operate this farm is we use the natural attributes of the herd week, which is its ability to survive in areas where probably no other sheep would be able to survive. We rely very heavily on the hefting instinct of the sheep, which is the sort of territorial instinct of the sheep to stay in their own flocks. We can pretty much gather the area that we would expect to find our sheep on and get the majority of them.
The only land the Rawlings actually own is a few hectares around their two farms. But free access to common grazing land owned by others is a right won through ancient struggles and is necessary for the continuation of this traditional form of farming.
All of that common land out there is in a higher level stewardship scheme, in conjunction working with Natural England to maintain the environment, landscape, wildlife habitat, clean water, a little bit of thought around carbon management as well.
Natural England is the public organisation which helps to protect England's nature and landscapes. The financial aid which the farmers receive from the government is conditional on their collaborating with programmes of environmental protection.
We as farmers would be able to use our traditional knowledge, skills and management practices to provide the outcomes that the Natural England, the general public, everyone's perception of what the Lake District should look like. I'm sure we could do that. We've been doing it for a long, long time.
The support of family businesses like that of the Rawlings is all the more important in a country in which most farmers rent the land on which they work from large landowners.